Hi guys, this is the second episode of the DIY electric skateboard project. And the last time we looked at the cost of building a basic budget electric skateboard and we came up to about $200+. Some extra bucks here and there for some parts, but yeah, that's the estimate we got to. So I ordered the parts, and if you are interested, go watch that video, and there's a list of parts that you can buy to start building your own electric skateboard. This video is about the first package that I received from China, and it's the motor. Let's go ahead and open it up. So a little bit about the motor. It's a 270 kV. Again, that's not kilovolt. A motor. This is the 5065 type motor, which is kind of on the low range, low budget motor, but this was around $35, I think. It's got good power rating of 1800 watts. It's got a maximum current rating of about 80 amps, I think, and it can work with both sensored and sensorless ESCs, or electronic speed controllers, and that's what we're looking for when you're buying a motor for an electric skateboard. So the specs are pretty decent, and the price is very good, but we still have to open the package and see what it's like. So what I want to do today is just quickly unbox this thing and go over the spec and just do a quick review of what we're expecting versus what we received here. So normal package here, nothing fancy, nothing protected. That's okay. We don't have any fragile parts in there, hopefully. It's quite heavy. First impression is motor is heavy. I think the spec sheet says it's 2.8 kilos or something, and that seems about right. First impression, very good. Actually better than expected from a cheap motor from China. Let's quickly look at the outer casing. It doesn't look damaged at all. It doesn't look used. It's got a good finishing. The whole outer body. The wires are attached properly. Let's take a closer look here and start at the top, which is the shaft. The shaft looks actually pretty sturdy. Stainless steel. There's no defect of any kind that I can see on this shaft. Then there is the retainer ring, which is this guy right here, and that looks to be in good shape as well. After the retainer ring, inside we see the actual bearing. Normally on the high-end motors, the bearing have a brand marking of some sort, but this one doesn't have it. I'm not surprised, and it's not specifically a problem. It's got these mounting holes, and they are of the same size, and I can see the threads inside. And if you see the body of the motor, I think this one is aluminum, and then this one is stainless steel, and the material looks really good. Coming to the back side of the motor, we can see the windings through the opening, and if you take a closer look at the windings, you can see that the windings are also wrapped in quite a decent fashion. There's quite a bit of overlap in some places. It's not 100% perfect. You can see the windings are not straight, they're overlapping, but overall I don't see any loose wires, or I don't see any missing windings, or a difference in thickness of respective windings. So I would give it a good 9 out of 10 as far as windings are concerned. You can also see there's a little bit of gloss. That's some lamination to insulate the windings. So yeah, very nice. Let's look at the wires here. It's got these 3 cables, which could have been thicker, but that's okay. You can only get that much for that much money. The gold-plated ends, or the gold-plated ends, look very decent. Should be okay. There are no deformations. So not bad. Also, the wire is it's not very flexible, but it's good. It can take a little bit of flex, but I would have preferred them to be softer because the motor is, it's moving under the skateboard and it twists and turns, and that over time these hard wires get damaged. So yeah, if these wires were a little more flexible, that would have been better. But nevertheless, quality looks good. The connection here, it's very sturdy. It doesn't look like it's loose or coming out. Now we come to the control wires, which go into your ESC, and they are very fragile, but that's the standard wire gauge for these wires, but they're not loose either, and the ends are very well executed. You can see 4 of them on the right side and one on the red one is on the left side, and that's the way it's supposed to be. But obviously, once we start building our skateboard, I'm going to have to wrap them up with heat shrink or something to ensure they don't get stuck around in something and get damaged. So that's about it for the motor. And since we're talking about the wires, a lot of people ask questions like, oh, why are there 3 wires? We thought there are like 2 wires, one power and one ground in a DC motor, but why are there 3 wires? So while we're at it, let's just answer that question really quickly. I'm not going to go into details of the motor and how it's structured, but let's just quickly answer that question. So this motor is not a brush DC motor. This is a brushless DC motor, also known as BLDC. And these are the kind of motors that are seen to be increasingly common nowadays. Now, the difference between a brushed motor and a brushless motor is that the brushless motor obviously doesn't have any brushes in it, which means that those brushes that touch the stator, this outer part is the stator, and the inner thing that rotates with the shaft is the rotor. So in a brushed motor, 2 wires are attached to the stator, which changes, and the polarity of the stator changes as it rotates. But in these motors, instead of the stator being a permanent magnet and the rotor having wires wound on top of it, in these motors the stator actually has these windings on it, and then the rotor is a permanent magnet, which means these wires, each of these can be attached to one stator each. So there's 3 stators in there. Each wire is attached to a stator, and we energize each stator alternatively via these wires. And as the stator gets energized one at a time, the permanent magnet, which is the rotor, just kind of chases the magnetic field as it is changing. The magnet follows the magnetic field, and that's how it rotates in a brushless motor. So that's why there are 3 wires here. If it's confusing to you guys, that's okay. Just read up a little bit on BLDCs. This is not a tutorial video, so I wouldn't be going into a lot of details of motor construction. So sorry if that was confusing, but I thought I'd just get the question out of the way. So yeah, final impressions. This motor looks extremely good. I'm sorry I can't test it right now because I don't have my ESC, I don't have my power source yet. But hopefully very soon we are going to receive all the parts and start assembling our electric skateboard. So thanks for following this build, and thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Keep fungineering and stay safe.